The big news this past week, around 1968, when Stanley Kubrick released 2001, he had finished a draft of an epic script about the life of Napoleon. This was a dream project that he chased for many years, but it never came to fruition. And actually, to give you a sense of what his hopes were for the project, he wrote an executive at MGM about his plans for Napoleon. And this is what he had to say. I propose we make a deal to film Napoleon based on the following premises. I will do a new screenplay. Naturally, in the 2 years since the first one was written, I have had some new ideas, because MGM rejected the first screenplay he completed in 1968. He said, it's impossible to tell you what I'm going to do, except to say that I expect to make the best movie ever made.
Dude, that's chutzpah, but that's brilliant.
Isn't that great? Oh, my God. So the big news this week is Napoleon never happened, and he gave certain excuses, the main one of which there had been a Rod Steiger, I think, Napoleon film that tanked, and that was a similar excuse to what he said about his Holocaust movie, with Schindler's List kind of stealing his thunder. I don't know that I completely buy that excuse.
I don't either, because what is it, Wartime Lies, the Louis Begley novel is very different from Schindler's List. So
he had that cast. I mean, the cast was ready to go.
Was going to be in that at the time.
Yeah. But anyway, that was his excuse. But the big news this past week is that Spielberg, as he did with AI, with the cooperation of the Kubrick estate, has revived Kubrick's script for Napoleon, and he's working to develop it as a TV miniseries. First of all, first impressions from you guys, good idea or bad idea?
Good idea. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, you know, there's only been really one truly great Napoleon movie, and that's, from, close to 100 years ago. I mean, that's been, the Abel Gance film. That's the only one that's really good. So, I mean, we're due for another one. So let's do this one.
I think it's a good idea. There's been some talk that it's kind of heresy to actually propose it as a miniseries, but Kubrick himself proposed it as a miniseries. He said it would work. It would work better as a 20-hour adaptation for television. But at the time, that model didn't exist. The miniseries didn't really exist at the time. So, and he didn't feel that there would be enough money for it or support for it. So, but now there obviously is, and I mean, what's great about it is, we have his script. So there is a Stanley Kubrick script. I mean, it is going to be a script by Stanley Kubrick. So that's exciting in and of itself right there. Anybody saying, oh, well, I don't know, Spielberg should just leave it alone. No, produce it. He's exactly the right guy to do it.
Well, I do think that Kubrick would put it on TV now. I mean, if he were still alive, I think that and more than likely, he would give it to HBO. And I do think Spielberg has a relationship with HBO, obviously, from all the stuff he produces with Tom Hanks, the World War II stuff. I do think that if it goes anywhere, it'll go to HBO. Secondly, the reason why Kubrick, I would think, would have gone with HBO for it is because Kubrick had a career-long collaboration with Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Time Warner and HBO, I mean, I think it would happen the same way if Kubrick were alive and he were to pursue a Napoleon project. The worry is about, like you said, Dean, the worry is not so much the form it takes, but Spielberg behind a Kubrick project, because those people that weren't convinced by the tone of AI, they don't like the idea of Spielberg's sentimentality barging in on Kubrick's particular tone.
Well, I mean, the thing to allay those fears is the fact that I think, they're going to be they're going to cleave extremely closely to the screenplay, because the screenplay exists. I mean, they don't have to, I doubt they have to go in and rewrite it. They might have to, cut some things or whatever, but
right.
I truly believe that they're going to stay with the script, and so that's the difference. I mean, the script for AI, wasn't fleshed out, in Kubrick's lifetime. Not dialogue-wise and so forth, and structure, maybe slightly structure-wise, so that's the difference. The difference there is obvious.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be. I don't think you're going to. First of all, I don't think you're going to see Spielberg. If it's going to be 20 hours or however long it's going to be, 10 hours or 12 or whatever. Spielberg might direct 1 or 2 episodes, but it's not going to be directed by the same person, I don't think.
Right.
I don't think you bring in a lot of different directors. You might actually even bring in a lot of the great HBO directors that they have do, like Boardwalk Empire and Game of Thrones, maybe.
Well, I think the big profile directors actually would probably be a project that they're interested in, because instead of being afraid of following in Kubrick's footsteps, I think if they handled it like, this is my way to give back to the master, to kind of pay tribute to what he's done for me. And I could think of a couple of candidates that would probably jump at it. The one person that's really interesting that they said would be a great choice to adapt a Kubrick script. And by the way, there are a couple of Kubrick scripts out there that they're developing that he never did. Like Lunatic at Large is one of them. Scarlett Johansson's cast in it, a couple of other people, I think. But the director that they bring up a lot in terms of tone is Michael Haneke.
That's interesting.
I don't think that. Something tells me that this is not something that he would be interested in doing. Because he, maybe tone-wise. I mean, I think, he's just more interested in doing smaller movies, but like chamber pieces, sort of.
Right.
But I think it'd be interesting. My number one pick for someone who should throw in on this project. Well, I have 2, really, and they're the 2 most Kubrickian filmmakers that are out there. One of them is now doing television, largely, and we've interviewed him on the show, and that's Keith Gordon.
Right.
Because if you go and look at all of his early works, The Chocolate War and Mother Night and Midnight Clear and so forth, they all very much have a Kubrickian feel. And another director is Mark Romanek. He did 1 Hour Photo and also
Never Let Me Go.
Never Let Me Go. And I think he would be a tremendous. If they're trying not to just go for, because they're not going to get just a list of Ridley Scott doing an episode and all A-listers doing it. They're gonna have to get a little creative. It's just inevitable, and so I think they should go to those guys, because they definitely.
What about
Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson though?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but again, he's just somebody that I think is frying other fish. But I mean, maybe he he's definitely no stranger to big movies. So.
Right. I mean, but he's obviously very much, even more so than the 2 that you mentioned. I mean, he may be the most of all Kubrick's children.
Well, here's the Hollywood Reporter's suggestions. They suggest David Fincher.
I was thinking that.
They suggest P.T. Anderson, Martin Scorsese, Catherine Bigelow, which I don't necessarily see, Ridley Scott, Christopher Nolan. And here's a great suggestion, a left-of-center suggestion of Peter Weir.
That's a really
I like
good
that
choice.
Peter Weir. That's a really good one, because that's definitely in his wheelhouse of just his past works. I like that.
I can imagine a lot of big-name directors throwing their hat into the ring and doing episodes of the miniseries.
You can.
Oh yeah,
I really can.
This is a big, enormous deal. I mean, I think everyone might, if this thing is really going to get going, is going to want in on this.
As long as none of them go to J.J. Abrams, I'm fine with it. J.J. Abrams has taken enough.
J.J. Abrams is just, I was thinking about this today, just looking at that Star Trek trailer that's on. I mean, you know, he's just going to be, I think his how do we say it? His fate is sealed forever.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just say he's now associated with two of the biggest science fiction properties of all time. No one's calling him for anything else. Okay, that ain't happening.
I don't think so too. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, and I can see Fincher doing it. But here's another point. A lot of the stuff that he didn't use for Napoleon, he put in Barry Lyndon. A lot of people are arguing he didn't need to make his Napoleon. He made Barry Lyndon.
It's not the same story. I mean,
but not tone-wise, but visually it may be.
Yeah, I mean, but they don't even take place in the same country.
Right.
I mean, so I mean, it's not the same thing.
But in terms of visually, a lot of his visual landscape for Napoleon, he put right into Barry Lyndon instead, because he wanted to shoot by candlelight. He wanted to do that for Napoleon.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. The candlelight thing, for sure.
Gave candle makers enough money to get their kids through college, that movie.
You know, what's great about it, too, is there's already, you know, of course there was that book that came out, I guess, last year, which I still need to get, the Napoleon, the Greatest Movie Never Filmed. And it was put out by Passion, and it has, you know, of course, a lot of his studies for locations and set dressings and costumes and so forth. So really, almost like this movie is it's just on the verge of already being made, really.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really just a matter of getting boots on the ground and actually doing it. I mean, it's sort of like a paint. It's almost like I liken it to like a paint by numbers set or something like that. I mean, that's simplifying it way too much. I know there's going to be a lot of work.
But so much of his movies were made in the making of them. Which means that how he let scenes evolve as he shot them.
Right.
I mean, it really was kind of like the movie being made on the day. Because he wasn't the kind of guy that shot what was on the page, and we got it, and let's move on. I mean, he was kind of the exact opposite of that in a lot of ways.
Yes.
So director really makes a difference. And the other thing is that in terms of budget, I mean, this thing would have been wildly expensive back in the day when he first wanted to do it. I'm sure you could cut a lot of budget now with CGI and all that kind of stuff, but still an incredibly ambitious project, and you got to find somebody with the dough. And I'm sure they're going to be haggling over budget when this comes to the dealing table, you know.
And that is an interesting thing you bring up, because, you know, with Kubrick there wasn't that haggling. I mean, it was how should we say, everything goes. I mean,
because he was very respectful with money.
Yeah.
I mean, minimal crew. He was actually. Why did they give him complete autonomy beyond just the prestige of carrying a Kubrick film? He was a smart filmmaker. Even if he took a year to shoot a film, he only shot with such a minimum crew, and his actors already cut their fees so low that they weren't losing money.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, God, it would be interesting to see him in today's environment that's just like runaway spending.
I think he'd still be working in the same exact way that he always worked.
He's not the kind of guy. I mean, he adapted, obviously, to technology and that sort of thing, but he was not the kind of guy who said, oh, well, we're doing this now. No, he's like, no, we'll do it. I do things my way. That's how we're going to do them for as long as I walk this earth.
And how much would he embrace the digital technology and the special effects technology? I mean, I think he would have for something like AI because it was unavoidable. But in terms of doing Napoleon, would he not want to do crowd scenes, battle scenes with CGI?
My guess is that he would say no to that.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, that's a really good question. I don't think he'd have the studio spend $300 million on a prequel to The Wizard of Oz, though. But I'm not just saying that because I just look at the prices of the two movies that have come out in the last 2 weeks, Jack and Oz. The budgets are just I could, if I had that kind of money, the last thing I'd do is make a movie. To be quite honest with you, if I had that kind, but I don't think he would. I think he would use it for what he needed to use it for. I don't think he wouldn't say, "Oh, we can do this with it." No, he'd be like, "I need to use it for this scene or this part," but I don't think he would let it dictate how he made movies.
True. That's absolutely true.
It's going to be a fascinating project to follow.
It will. I'm so glad that it's happening. I wished for it to happen for years and years and years. I just said, why don't they make it? Somebody should make it.
And the whole thing about Spielberg being sentimental, the whole thing about the sentimental Steven Spielberg, it's true. I mean, he is. Even in something as dark as War of the Worlds, which that movie's pretty dark, he still tacks on that happy ending, which a lot of people found completely false. But
how did that street remain intact? That's why I love the movie, but you just get to that part, you're like, wait a minute, how did these guys get out of here unscathed? What the hell?
It's true.
But then you look at something like Munich. I mean, the nude woman that they assassinate. I mean, they shoot her in the head, and she's there, and her whole female genitalia is hanging out. And I mean, he's gone to some dark places. I mean,
that's got to be one of the most tragic scenes in all of his. In all of his movies. 3 truly grown-up movies.
I mean, if you want to call it his, Schindler's List, Private Ryan, and obviously Munich are his darkest. When he's dealing with issues of the war or with the results of the war, and especially with Jewish issues, he's very dark because I don't see how else you can be with the issues of the Holocaust and the Israeli-Palestinian thing. I don't see how you can't be sentimental. There's no way to be really sentimental. I really don't see. Even World War II. I mean, you could say the ending of Saving Private Ryan, maybe, but that's a brutal film. Even AI is a brutal film. I don't think the ending that some people want to, in hindsight, it is not a happy ending.
No, I mean, that's a really, really, really sad ending to that film.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a happy ending at all. I don't know why people thought it was. I mean, you could make the traditional case, and we even see it with the end of Lincoln. He doesn't know when to leave well enough alone. That's certainly a case that can be made for AI. But he has gone to, as Jamie pointed out very well, that he has gone to dark places. And even if he directs one episode, I think Spielberg would hold off on that because there's nowhere you can go with Napoleon that's going to be small. I just don't see it.
Well,
yeah, I mean, the only thing that it can be maybe the romance, or maybe the sort of the loss of innocence and child and with Napoleon as a child. Some of those things that Abel Gance, highlighted.
Oh yeah,
in Napoleon,
the eagle and the snowball fights and everything. Yeah,
but
the military.
But if it's going to be a birth to death thing, let's face it, it's not going to have a happy ending.
Right. I mean, well, no, of course
not. Wasn't a happy ending. So I don't see that coming into play. I don't see the sentimentality or whatever coming into play in this thing because again, they're working off the screenplay, so Spielberg is the right person to do it. I don't believe that he's going to inject a lot of his own qualities into the film. Other than
so here's the question for you: Who was he wanting to cast as Napoleon? Kubrick.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, didn't he talk to Nicholson about it?
Yeah. And Nicholson always held out hope. Like even after The Shining, he said, I know I'm too old for it, but I still want to do Napoleon. And he always dreamt of doing that with Kubrick.
Well, what, do they get Danny DeVito to play it now? I mean, what the...
Well,
In the one, they're going to go to Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
That's an interesting choice. I could see that.
Well, the script is available for everyone to read. It is part of that Napoleon book set that you mentioned, Dean, and it's online. So let's see how much it'll be reworked. As Kubrick even stated, he wanted to rework it from his draft that's out there and available now. So.
Right.